I'll get started while we're sitting down. Thank you to Mohawk Consultations for hosting this event and asking me to moderate this panel on stories in place. I'm here with Becky Collins-Brooks of Hilltop Farm, Victoria Messner of COFFE, Coalition of Forward-Facing Ellenville, and my old friend Joe Concra from the O Positive Festival. We'll be hearing from them in a minute, but first a little about me. I'm Brian Mahoney, editor of Chronogram. That's who I am. Thank you. Does anybody not know what Chronogram is? You can Google it. This is a physical manifestation of it. I brought some copies for folks. We've been at this media making since 1993. We started in a garret on Academy Street here in New Paltz. So my partners, Jason Stern and Amara Pajansky, started this thing when they were 22 years old, and 31 years later, here we are. We publish this monthly magazine. We also publish material every single day on our website. I encourage you to go there and do that. I also encourage you, this is the shameless self-promotion part, to subscribe to our newsletters. You can go to our website, chronogram.com/newsletters, and you can get newsletters 5 out of 7 days a week with information like, let's see what's on the homepage today. So right now we have a story on the new bookstore that opened up in Ellenville. Yeah. Women's Studio Workshop celebrating 50 years. Fashion-based, Hudson Valley-based fashion brands. So, I mean, you know, the stories that we tell, let me back up. Let me say it this way. I think a lot about the stories we tell and the stories we don't. I think a lot about what Pete Seeger once said. He said, the key to the future of the world is finding optimistic stories and letting them be known. That really informs a lot of what our work is at Chronogram. For instance, Chronogram has written about the work of everyone on this panel, not surprisingly. Some other stories come to mind. We recently, in the current issue, wrote about chef Doris Choi, who owns Goodnight and Sylvia up in Woodstock, and her relationship with mushroom farmers in Ellenville, and how that all came about, and how that informs both of their work. We recently ran a piece on small farms in the Hudson Valley, and it was inspired by, I got a report from the Food and Water Watch saying that factory farms were proliferating across the U.S. and in New York, and that they had published a map county by county showing this. And I looked at the map, and Ulster County, Orange County, Dutchess County had no factory farms. Yeah, right. And I said, oh, let's flip this story on its head, and let's tell a positive story here about what's happening in our backyard. And I assigned a writer to it, and I said, go tell the story, go schlep up some farmers and talk to them about what they're doing. And we had our pre-panel discussion the other day, and I was saying to Becky, we just wrote this great story on how we have no factory farms. She's like, yeah, I was interviewed for it in your magazine. And I was like, that's so great. So great. We tell a lot of stories, so sometimes I kind of lose the thread. One other thing that we've been doing at Chronogram for the past couple years is a pop-up portrait project. We go into a different community every month, and we set up somewhere, and we invite the community in, and we take their portraits. So this is from last month. We were in New Paltz. And so 75 people in New Paltz came out to the Water Street Market. They got their picture taken. And we've been going from town to town and doing this now for almost 3 years. And on Saturday, I was in Catskill. And we did this in a little gallery. And we invited people in. And suddenly, 15 people with ukuleles showed up. And it was the Catskill Ukulele Society. And you had 15 people playing ukuleles all together and getting their photo taken. It's wild, and it kind of puts Chronogram in the community and the community in Chronogram. And one of the things I think also that's been so important about this project is that people feel seen where they are. You know, a lot of what I do is panopticon-based, right? I am sending out messages without receiving a lot of feedback. But when people can see themselves as part of something, it's super powerful. So, working 30 years as a journalist, I have a lot of stuff I've published, so I don't have to write new stuff mostly anymore. I can go back and grab something that I've already done. So this is a column I wrote in a part of a column in April of 2015. It's called The C Word. Community is a notional thing. We all live in a physical place in the Hudson Valley, Cold Spring, Catskill, etc. What defines a community, however, is not its geography, but its interdependence. A community doesn't have to exist. It is created through intention and mutual interest. Community is a choice. We all live in a neighborhood, but we don't all live in a community. The stories that we're attracted to telling in Chronogram are ones that highlight our interdependence, that invisible bond that connects us to each other and all things around us. Community is about dialogue, finding shared areas of interest, and investigating shared outcomes that benefit all. This is important to keep in mind as the Hudson Valley is seeing an ongoing influx of new residents. Now, mind you, this was 2015. One of the hallmarks of gentrification is a lack of sensitivity to existing social relationships. As the region continues to absorb new residents, we'd all do well to remember that communities are built through dialogue, not by those who would dictate the terms of their participation, either by NIMBY-style opposition or a lack of sensitivity to existing residents. Community is a choice. One can be part of a group, a family, a workplace, a neighborhood, and not be a part of that community. Someone can live in a city for 20 years and not engage. Another person could move to a city and become part of its community almost immediately by choosing to volunteer or joining the PTA or becoming a volunteer fire person. Community is a choice, and Chronogram tells stories of interdependence which form community. So that's just setting the table for what these fine people are going to talk about.
So I just want to say thank you to Mohonk Consultations for hosting this conference today. I think this is such an important topic. Community is what I hope that we have today, and a really deep conversation so that we can build relationships together. I do have to say, as an aside, when I was asked to speak, I was asked for a headshot and a brief bio. Now, farmers don't have headshots, and I'm a writer, and so brief is not in my vernacular, so what they ended up with was a selfie and a dissertation. So I will try to keep this as brief as I can. I have it written down, and I'll not interject. I'll try not to. You know already, my name is Becky Collins-Brooks. Along with my husband, Barton, I'm the co-owner of Catskill Wagyu at Hilltop Farm, which, if you walk out to the sunset porch right here at Mohonk, you can see between the ridge and the Catskill Mountains. We're what you'd call locals. We both grew up in the Rondout Valley. And while this is a second marriage for both of us, we grew up together and we knew who each other was before life took us in different directions. I believe that sharing our stories, all of us collectively, is how community is built. In fact, sharing Barton's and my story is what drives my life as a farmer and feeds my life and my work as a writer. There was some question as to why a farmer would be a panelist at a conference such as this. For me, it started back in May when I wrote a piece about community for the outlet I write for, Inside Out Upstate. Be careful, be careful what you say, because it may end you up here. I thought some of the story that I wrote would help you appreciate the important role of small farms in the communities surrounding them. So I'll read excerpts from that piece and interject some of my own thoughts as well. The customers of Hilltop Farm are a diverse group: locals, newcomers, family, longtime friends, and new acquaintances. But one thing they all have in common is this: every person who sets foot on this property becomes a part of it, whether they know it or not. We raise Wagyu beef, known to be fancy, pricey, both to raise and to eat. And it's very unique. But what some may not know is this. We also raise non-Wagyu steers for those who can't quite reach the price point of Wagyu. These animals, we feel, have a noble purpose because some of them go to the local food pantry as ground beef to feed people in our community who would otherwise be unable to obtain it. There's that word, community. Our farm occupies an essential position in so many ways, environmentally, economically, geographically, but the most important one for us is our place within the social structure, with the people who visit us and support us, our community. I'll interject here. My husband and I have watched a huge transition of our community structure from one that's agriculture and rural-based to one that's now tourism and vacation-based. Now I'll keep on reading my story. Small farms used to be the main industry in the Rondout Valley. Notably, they were mostly dairy farms from which creamy, rich milk was hauled in 10-gallon cans to the local creamery just down the road from where this farm sits. In fact, once upon a time, Hilltop Farm was part of my husband's grandfather's farm just across the road. Grandpa Sheely's legacy can be seen scattered through the neighborhood right here in tiny Kaiserreich. Our farm occupies a parcel that includes a high knob of hayfields, hence the name Hilltop Farm. From that knoll, we can see all of the eastern Catskill Range, including the Burroughs Range, way off beyond High Point, 3 little mounds that belie their actual height, and which my husband affectionately calls his humps. Across the road is Grandpa's former farm, a recently gentrified place with a boating lake, the stately Dutch barns where Bart helped to milk cows, and the stone house where his mom grew up. There's more farmland across the road that's been divvied up amongst the family, some of it with beautiful soil where, after retiring from dairying, Grandpa Sheely grew spectacular vegetables. Now, Sheely's farm stand is owned and operated by Bart's aunt and uncle, who raise gorgeous vegetables of their own and hold court in the sharp green farm stand on hot summer days. The transfer of food from hands that grew it to those that will prepare and eat it is an intimate transaction, and it seems only fitting to honor that process by getting to know each other. I'm going to read that again. The transfer of food from hands that grew it to those that will prepare and eat it is an intimate transaction, and it seems only fitting to honor that process by getting to know each other. It's this aspect of farming that is often overlooked, the chatting, the camaraderie, the relationship building. It's the people. Not long ago, I received a phone call from a friend asking me about third places. She needed help identifying them as a part of a project she was working on. That project was this conference. What are third places? It's a term coined by sociologist Ray Oldenburg, referring to where we spend our time. We humans live out our lives in buildings that define us, where we live and work. According to Oldenburg, our houses are considered first places, our offices second places. They're the places we spend the most amount of our time. But third places, those are where community is built. In times gone by, an example of an important third place was church, where fundraising suppers, town meetings, and musical concerts were held. But the slow, painful death of many churches has rendered them less useful as community hubs. Schools can serve as third places, community gathering places where sports, the arts, and learning converge for young people and the adults who support them. And of course, there are the virtual third places. I curse these places. Social media platforms that give the impression of human connection. Nextdoor or Facebook Friends. Those are obvious, but what about other places? I had a few thoughts for my friend, but as I mulled this concept, I returned again and again to farms. Farms are critically important third places for the communities that surround them, and it's time to remind the world of that fact. Our first, second, and third places are located in one spot, Hilltop Farm. This is where we live, work, and socialize. We don't get out much. We welcome customers to our farm store to sell the products we raise, beef, eggs, roaster chickens. But when customers visit, We don't just sell them things. We offer them time to meet the cows, see the chicken coop, and visit the calves. This isn't a petting zoo. Our animals are classified as livestock, and we make sure people understand the difference. If the weather is nice, we make the time to walk up on our hill, to show them the views, but also to let them connect with the land that grows such delicious food. We feed our community, and we take that responsibility seriously. We've met such interesting people through the farm, people who've enriched our lives unquantifiably, but deciding to open it to the public was not an easy decision for many reasons. We're both introverts who value time alone, and since farming can be solitary work, we are well suited to it. But we saw that the only way for the farm to survive development pressure, convoluted government policies, and exorbitant input costs, among many other things, was to open this place to on-farm retail sales. What we got in return has been nothing short of astounding. The cross-section of humanity we call our friends enriches our lives beyond measure. Everyone needs to eat. Every single human body needs food to survive, which means farms are hubs of survival, including Hilltop Farm. To illustrate how diverse and interesting our community is, here are two anecdotes. Once the phone rang, and an elderly woman's voice came over the line. "Can you tell me how this beef was raised?" she asked. "I picked up a package at the local food pantry, and it's the best hamburger I've ever tasted, but I have questions." Our contact information is on every package of beef, and it was touching that she took the time to call. I answered her questions and invited her to visit the farm sometime if she was out and about. She was well-spoken, housebound, and hoping to meet us someday. We still haven't met her, but the thought that the food we raised was feeding someone who really needed good nutrition makes us proud. The other story is from this past winter when we were invited to a birthday party. Not just any birthday party, but a glamorous party at a high-end venue. I glanced at Bart as he drove us to town that night, and he looked pensive. "Are you all right?" I asked. "I'm just really nervous," he answered. I didn't like to admit it, but I was too. We don't go out much, as I've already said. We really don't. We don't go out much, but this was a special occasion for a lovely person, and we didn't want to miss celebrating with her. Upon arrival, we connected with two dear friends who kept us company and eased our discomfort. We were met with hugs from the hostess and her husband as the DJ warmed up the dance floor. From our vantage point at a cocktail table, we watched the room flood with people. That's my husband's worst nightmare, by the way. To our astonishment, we knew nearly all of them. Interestingly, our connection was the farm. At the heart of the party, standing ironically near the groaning board piled with deliciousness, were their farmers, the ones who raised their food. I won't say Bart's comfort level rose much because crowds are definitely not his thing, but when we got in the truck to drive home again, he no longer looked worried. He was smiling broadly. So what is community exactly? Is it a building like the third place my friend was asking about, or is it the people who fill that space with their energy? For us, as third places go, this farm is the most important one, an uncommon combination of place and people with an alchemy not able to be replicated anywhere else. Luckily for us, everyone has a common interest in the necessity of food, and food is our business. Opening our farm to the public has suffused our lives with a vibrancy we could never have anticipated when we were struggling with going public. The customers who've become friends are just too numerous to count, and those friends tell their friends who come to visit and meet the cows and us and take a walk on our hill. Our farm is a community builder for us, for those who come to visit us, and even those hearing these words right now. In all the arguments about the viability and purpose of small farms, community strength is, to us, the most critically important one. When I got in the car to come up here this morning, I turned on my car and the radio came blasting on. And do you know what was playing? It was Bob Dylan. These times are a-changin'. Boy, is that the truth. I wrote this piece back in May, But the conversation about our community has been ongoing long before then, and it's continued right until now, right in our living room. The community we want is the community we build, but it's also subject to the flexibility of its participants and the strength of the relationships weaving us all together. The biggest challenges come when we bump into people who just want everything their way, with no give and take, and who believe their opinions are the only ones. We see our farm as a place to open minds and hearts in order to help those individuals who might not be so open. It's our hope that we've reached them in a tiny way. And I'll finish with this last bit of my story that I wrote in May. In the upcoming months, we have a packed calendar of meat harvests and sales, events, and apprentices arriving for the summer. We cherish our alone time, especially our morning coffee after the cows are cared for and the milking equipment has been cleaned and put away. For the last few morning coffee breaks, for whatever reason, nostalgia has crept into our time together. Our community looks vastly different now than it did even 10 years ago. Once, long ago, community was found in the line waiting to drop off the milk cans at the creamery or in the aisles of Agway where farmers congregated to chat. Also gossip. Once, community was found with friends we grew up with over a Saturday night game of dominoes and perhaps a little too much wine. Now, the creamery and Agway are gone, and old friends have moved away to places more affordable as they enter retirement age. It's wistful to think about those good bygone times, but we don't allow ourselves to languish in that mindset for long. The cows beckon us back outside again, where new, old friends might come to call.
Joseph, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. I'm usually standing up, not sitting down, so easy, easy. Don't make me do. Okay, no, don't make me do it. My name is Joe Concra. I'm a painter. I live in Kingston. There is someone in this room I want to acknowledge because I went to college with him. Hello, Desmond. How are you? I'm a painter, not a writer, so thank you, because you just said everything I could have said, but better. But I can tell you that in 2010, are most of you, is anybody here familiar with O Positive? Yeah. Wow, look at that. I'm out. In 2010, myself and some friends got together and had a crazy idea because we were artists and there's no health care for artists, and in fact now there's really no health care for anybody. But every year we knew that the things that we had to decide to choose was rent, paint, guitar picks, strings, whatever we needed to play with, write with, make films with, and how could we get health care after having a conversation with a dentist who said that he wanted to bring a band to Kingston where nothing was really happening, and he would clean their teeth. So that next morning, I called a friend who's a doctor and said, I know you love music. And he said, I do. I said, would you trade care if we brought a band? Would you see the band? Would you take care of them? I would. So fast forward 4 months later, we threw our first festival. Brian was probably there. Were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
All right, good. Thank you for answering that. And now 14 years later, we just had another one, right? But we're doing so much more than that. We now had, at this most recent festival in October, we had 125 providers. We did 415 clinic visits. The whole O Positive crew right now is over here. Omari's on our board. So many people in this room are volunteers. So that's community, right? Like we're all make O Positive together, which I think is amazing. And this year we did 415 visits, over 70 dental visits so far. And I think the most vital thing that we've done, besides showing the community how important culture is to it, because of our mural program that maybe you see when you go through Kingston, besides all the bands that have played our festival that have now gone on to have careers, or more importantly now, the bands that have to tour because they can't sell a record because nobody buys records anymore, right? Or the artists who no longer can sell paintings because all of their dealers have shut down. Was that a self-reference maybe? So In January, we did something even more radical. We got our New York State certified clinic license. And we are now, with thank you guys, we are now caring for all of our alumni that need it at our clinic, which is also an exchange platform. So you may not know this, but every band and every artist who plays O Positive not only becomes an alumni, but their form of currency is not the dollar. Their form of currency is playing a show, is painting a mural, is dancing, is performing, is showing their film, is speaking in our spoken word, is doing all of the things that they do, and then they get care. Because what we see in our community, and especially the Hudson Valley, is that it takes culture of care to take care of each other, and that we can actually build a healthcare system and a care system. Hello, Jesse. Nice timing. And a care system that actually is based upon valuing each other equally, not what you have in your wallet, and not reliant upon any bureaucracy to come in and either tell you what to do or what you can or cannot do. We are non-political, non-partisan. We know that you may or may not like the art that we put up. You may or may not like the bands that we play, but come back next year or come to the next event. So that's what we are. We are not just a festival. I am so happy to say that to everybody. We have a year-round space. In this next coming year, our goal is to fundraise and find a space that we can call our own, a home, where every night you can come and experience the joy of O Positive and see care. We also, in our space, just so you know, and Mac is over here too. Mac, you want to raise your hand? So we brought Mac on to be our alumni coordinator and help coordinate how events happen in the space that we have. When I say space, you might be thinking big. It's a garage. Don't tell anybody, but most really good ideas start in the garage. So we have a garage, and we want to get the rest of the place eventually, not where we are, but find a place with a garage that we can expand. So you might want to come to a lecture like this. You might want to come to a show. And you might also want to be involved in our exchange as we open it up to the general public. And our events, which you can go on our website and see, are open to the general public. So that's what we do. Was that good, guys?
You did great.
Good? All right. Yeah. And your turn.
All right. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name's Tori. I am the president of COFFE. It's Coalition of Forward-Facing Ellenville. We formed about 3 years ago during the pandemic. It was very much an organization that was born out of isolation. I don't know if everyone here is familiar with Ellenville. We're not too far away. But for a very long time, there's been a bad narrative. There's been, we haven't had any industry really besides a prison since the 70s when the Borscht Belt era ended. Our manufacturing jobs are gone, like many other small towns. There has been somewhat of a staleness in terms of leadership and pride within the community. So anyway, 3 years ago, it started on a Zoom, like many meetings 3 years ago. And there were local business owners, there were artists, there were new residents, and there were long-standing residents. And our goal was, how do we, A, create community spaces because everyone was just starting to not isolate anymore, and B, how do we create a stronger quality of life here in Ellenville? How do we make people who live in Ellenville proud to live in Ellenville? I know we're all scared of that G word, gentrification. So it was very important for us to, find a way to keep the great thing, like keep the diversity of Ellenville, keep the bones of Ellenville, but fill the storefronts and create jobs. And how do we kind of balance that, progress with making sure no one is left behind? So that's kind of been something that we've been dealing with for the past, for our entire time as an organization. We are very much like women and queer led. So I will say in terms of, we aren't just the old boys club anymore, which is nice. And our organization is also very laterally led. So we have a number of projects that we've put together in Ellenville. We've got artist meet and greets, an artist residence program. We have a farmer's market, which actually Michelle over here helped start in Ellenville, called Market on Market. We have outdoor free movies in the mountains. So it was very important for us to put together all of these community events, but there are different people leading each of these events. So while we are a traditional 501c3, we do have that president, vice president, board. We have 100 members, and we have about 20 members who are leading different projects that COFFE helps sort of find volunteers for, helps connect one another. We've got two of our board members here, Elena, who's also on Parks and Recs. She's been working with the community for a dog park and also to clean up a few parks. And we've got Johnny Frost, who recently joined the Wawarsing Town Board. So, while we as an organization are not politically involved, there's very much a case where a lot of the people within COFFE have now become part of, whether it's the Parks and Recs Committee, whether it's the Planning Board, whether it's the new mayor of Ellenville. The previous mayor was mayor for 21 years. So it's kind of injecting like more blood and more ideas into Ellenville. So going on a bit of a tangent, but I do want to sort of reinforce this idea that what makes COFFE so exciting is that we're all about those connections. We connect the carpenter with the person trying to clean up the park, and he's building those benches. We connect the tech guy with the mayor who wants to put on free outdoor movies. So it's using people's skills and like-mindedness to make these projects successful. I also just want to kind of touch on this idea of, this diversity of industry. I know too that you had mentioned that tourism can overtake communities like this. However, in Ellenville, it is what we view as one of maybe 3 industries that we actually, in fact, need to keep businesses going. So within the last couple years, we've gotten a record store, a bookstore, a cafe and market, a clothing store. 2 of our lead members just received their cannabis license to start a cannabis production farm in Wawarsing. So we are very much conscious that businesses create jobs, diversity of industry creates a long-term success for this area, because our goal is to have people, stay. Kids graduate high school, go to college, and come back. And we can't do that if there aren't jobs, and some jobs are in tourism. So at this point, I feel like we should try to kind of connect why we're all up here.
I'm back at the lectern. I have many pages of cogent questions here, but we only have 20 minutes left, so I thought I would open it up to the floor and see if anybody wants to jump in with a question of their own. Yes?
My name is Becky Lobster, and I've been trying to start an SSIP down in Ellenville. Oh, sorry. I've started 5 branches of seniors serving in place, and one of them used to be in Ellenville, but they ran out of steam. So am I happy to hear from you. We want to get seniors together. The program that we have is meeting at least once a week for coffee. Usually it evolves to even more than that, but it's terribly important for seniors. So if I can be in touch with you about that, it would really... The people I had just ran out of steam. They didn't get enough connections, but we need connections for seniors down in Ellenville.
Thank you.
We hold a monthly meeting the first Tuesday of every month in an artist studio in downtown Ellenville, 9 Market, and we'd love to have you as our next guest speaker to introduce your organization.
Wow. All right, community at work. Look at that. Yes.
Hi, Tori. Wondering, you mentioned tourism being one of three industries important to Ellenville. I'm curious what the other two are. And also just want to say she has amazing cheese at Morning Sunshine.
Thank you. I think cannabis is going to be a good opportunity for us. Ellenville has allowed its retail license, or people to sell retail within certain zones downtown. We are still crossing our fingers with Cresco, which would be taking over an old manufacturing facility that I believe was Charade Knives. And then, like I had mentioned, there's Hudson Valley Harvest, which is more of a mom and pop organization that is looking for low potency, outdoor and indoor raised, produced cannabis. And I think that is the manufacturing and side of things. The third one, we have an amazing hospital. It's very small. I was talking with Joe too, about these ideas of maybe enhancing that hospital so that more people can go to it for different needs. It has an amazing PT department, but who knows? I think our eyes are also on improving the school. There's that is also a place that a lot of people have careers, jobs at. But I don't know if you guys know this, but 1 in 4 of our students doesn't graduate. Our attendance rate is abysmal, and so it's kind of looking there to see how do we create a better school system. I also will just say that this is not necessarily an industry, but it is for the kids. We just received funding to put together a feasibility study for a youth center, and so while it's also diversity of industry, it's also just diversity of things to do. There's not much for the kids to do in our area, and so first and foremost, let's get somewhere that they can thrive from a young age.
Oh, do you have a question, Louisa?
I do have a question for all of you. We heard all about kind of what things are flowing for all of you. I'd love to hear challenges in terms of cultural differences of viewpoint from the constituents in your town or in your festival or in your farm, and how you manage those.
I'd love to.
I can go next.
I love that question. That's a great question. We talk about it all the time. We diversify our programming in terms of everything that it is. Feel free to jump in, you guys. Don't hold back. But everything in terms of what haven't we done? Who are we not reaching? What is available? And also, this is really important, listening. We get a lot of emails, not just hey, I need a chiropractor, or what do I do? How do I get my blood pressure checked? But we get have you ever thought of this, or have you ever thought of that? And that's why in the beginning for us, it was primarily, medicine, art, and music. And now it's diversified to a whole range of stuff. This year we had a lot of dance, right, Lindsay? We had a lot of dance this year. That came out of nowhere. But we also aren't political. I will tell you this story that I have told privately, but it's okay now. Year 1, a local politician called me, or wrote to me, I remember how, and said, I've been working on healthcare my entire political career, and I want to be there to cut the ribbon. And I said, 2 things. If you would have done your job, we wouldn't need this festival. I don't want to curse because we're at Mohawk. You can't cut the ribbon because there isn't one. Talk to us later. You guys, honestly, and I'm going to speak for everybody over there, we wish we didn't exist. We wish we could just be a party. But to do what we need to do, we have to reach across every divide. Healthcare doesn't give a fuck who you vote. I did it. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. I think they just heard me out at Sam's point. I just want to be really clear, to do the work that we do, it's all about relationship. And that doesn't, I don't care who the person is. If they want to come work with us, or if they want to hear something that we don't do, or if they have a completely different viewpoint, within the moment of them coming to us, we know it's about culture and care. So come on in. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. And that's why we are nonpartisan and we don't really allow politics to get involved. Because at the end of the day, if you're sick, it doesn't matter who you voted for.
Actually, I really want to answer this too. That is such a great question. Everyone has to eat. I said that in my comments. When someone comes to our farm to purchase food, they're not coming to us as a political statement. They're coming to us to get food. And so we talk about the food. I will say that when controversial subjects arise, we listen. One of the most important things that you can do in a community is listen to understand, not listen to collect information to try to change someone's mind. Because when you listen to understand, you enter a level of mutual respect for each other. And if someone feels heard, they have more respect for you as well. So you're building a connection through respect. You don't have to always agree, but you need to respect each other. I've also said in many, many times, there's nothing more political than the food on your dinner plate, because that food is governed by so many regulations and rules. And even our small farm has to follow them. But when someone comes to our farm, it's not about that. It's not about the USDA stamp on our piece of meat. It's about the connection between us and that person that's doing something for us. They're actually doing something for us. They're supporting our farm. So we're grateful to them, and in return what we get back is gratitude. So it's really listening. That's the most important thing, and overcoming that obstacle. If there's the other piece of it is, if anything gets really concerning in the conversation, I just tell my husband to go inside and I'll handle it. Because he does have opinions.
I just want to jump in quickly and talk about this idea of newcomers versus sort of longtime residents. And I think that our coalition, while our board was pretty much right down the middle, 50% people who were born and raised there, was perceived as only newcomers. And so there was a huge hurdle for us to get over, just in terms of trust and acceptance when we were putting projects together. There's been an extreme amount of disillusionment from residents when projects come in, they never happen, projects go out. So for us, it was about time and consistency, and I know empathy was something that was discussed earlier. Once you just continue to show up and continue showing people that you care, eventually we all end up working together towards that common goal, which is we've started to see within the last few months a very significant, the naysayers are now actually on the roof building the new shingles that we need for that piece of the park, and it's been pretty cool.
Nice. Yes.
So I kind of want to build off of that last question. So a couple of you guys used the G word today, gentrified, for our communities. And I am a councilwoman of a small rural town in the Rondout Valley that has a 13% poverty rate, but a median household income of over $76,000. So any advice or ways that you guys have seen to navigate such as an extreme social divide in community, which socioeconomic divide in community, when we have over 10% of our town can't afford to eat or live in our town, and then the other half is building $500 million homes or buying up local businesses and changing them into ones that only hit a certain price point and a certain person in our town's income level. So if anyone could speak to just trying to bridge that gap or working within that
I will. I'm not going to speak for everybody on this panel. I'm going to speak from our own experience. As I said, we're locals. So it's that locals versus not locals and newcomers thing. At our farm, that doesn't matter. If you've been here for 5 minutes or 50 years, you're still a local. If you pay taxes in our town, you're a local. Actually, Charlotte is from our town. She's asking this question. It's a really, really important question. Because we raise Wagyu beef. That's Kobe beef, for anybody who doesn't know. It's expensive, and it is expensive to raise, and it takes a long time, and our price point says that. So a large portion of our customer base is the high-end consumer. To counteract that, because we also have a micro dairy, and we have dairy steers that are being born that can't be used, obviously, for milk. So we raise those. On other farms, those calves are sold at a young age to someone else who will do whatever they will do with them. But we don't do that. We keep them. We raise them. It's expensive to do that, too. And we sell them at cost, without our time factored in, to the Rondout Valley Food Pantry. Because we believe that every person has the right to healthy and nutritious and sustainably raised food, and humanely raised food. So that's the way we bridge that gap. I do need to say, as an aside, that as people who have mostly lived our entire lives in this area, it is hugely challenging to watch what's happened and kind of feel at a loss as to what to do to counteract that. The best thing that we can do is listen, welcome everybody in. This table over here has people who are working really hard to come up with solutions to bridge that gap. So I hope we all can talk to each other about ways we can help that gap.
I run a cafe and market, and I do know that some of our cheese is high priced, just like similar to your beef, not quite as expensive. But we hire local kids, 20-year-olds, 20-somethings, and hope that we can give them, all of our employees went to Ellenville High School, and some of them are queer, some of them hated Ellenville. They're now kind of getting excited about the area. And so for us, it's really important to just create these jobs and give them this excitement of safe spaces that they can be in or things that they can do. It's employ them. And while I also understand that there'll only be out of the 10 cheese that we sell, only half of it is going to be realistic for the area because we are a specialty food store. So it's that balance. And then as far as COFFE, our organization is concerned, it's all of our events are free to attend. We offer SNAP at our farmers markets. Our artist in residence is right in the heart of the village. It's very walkable. There are artists at meet and greets. And our movies in the mountains are free outdoor movies. So it's just creating those community spaces that are at no cost.
And I can be really, really quick. All of our wristbands at O Positive are by donation. So we try to get the person who moved here who might be able to give us a lot of money to give it, but we always say give what you can. And interestingly, over 14 years, I would say probably the amount donation has never changed. It's really low. So it all comes down to sponsorship and raising money and asking people to donate. So just keep it affordable.
And for my own work, Chronogram is still the same price it was when we started. Free. Free. It is our gift to the community. Other questions? Yes.
So I have a combination observation, comment, and question. Hi, my name is Michelle. I'm new to the area, relatively new. My husband and I moved off of Long Island about 5 years ago. And I never could have anticipated what I'm experiencing here. in terms of community. So I am one of the new people. I am one of the people that has one of these nice houses now. We are very, very aware of our what we represent to a lot of the people here, and but we've also embraced so much of what is here, and I couldn't be more happy, more excited, more proud to personally have relationships with two of the people that are on this panel. And you know, we're all individuals, we all have our own stories, and we all have the capacity to grow and learn and to embrace each other. I started a new business, a dog treat business. Becky sells them in her farm store. Tori is designing my new packaging. She did give me a lovely shout out before. I did help to kickstart the Ellenville Market on Market when I first moved here and was looking to connect with local people. Mohoney carries my treats in their gift shop. This is an oasis for me. And I just think it's just, you know, it's a different perspective perhaps to share. I think I'm, you know, no person is an exception completely. There are a lot of people that came to this community to be part of a community. I lived off of Long Island where I lived my entire life and never had a community. Now I have so many different communities. I tell people when I move here that my best friend is a farmer. This is my best friend. That never would have happened. So there's so much good happening in this community of Hudson Valley, this community of Ulster County where I live, this community that caused Mohoney to put on such a presentation and to have a full room. So there's just so much to feel good about. This is another best friend sitting to my right that I didn't know 5 years ago. This is an awesome, awesome place to live, to grow, to connect, and really happy that I'm here. And please say hello to me. I want to meet you too. This is not my event, don't want to take it over. But I did want to share that because I don't know how many other people, you know, are sitting in the seat that I'm sitting with the, you know, with the background, with the perspective that I have, and I just wanted to share that. I did want to ask a question. In fact, Tori was particularly interested in learning more about COFFE. I think others might be as well, because you mentioned some projects, especially the dog park, which of course would be near and dear to me. So I'm wondering how people can volunteer, how people can learn about the different projects that are going on, and how they could possibly volunteer.
I'll give everyone either a sign-up sheet or my email address, our organization's email address, and we will make that connection.
Okay, last question. Go for it.
So, of course, who wouldn't want to live in the Hudson Valley, right? And so as we are shifting the narrative as to what thriving together looks like, I wanted to know, what do you have in place for those who move up here? And I think it was Brian who said that gentrification is like the lack of sensitivity to existing social relationships. So I just wanted to know, what are you guys doing to bridge those gaps between the work that you do to support thriving together?
Yeah, okay. I love that they're really tired. Looks at me. I'll take it. Mac, you want to say hi? Mac's new to the area, and Mac has joined us to help organize all of our alumni. I think one of the really important things to do, and I have not mentioned the G word. I have completely not different thoughts, but I have deeper economic thoughts about it. One of the slides earlier really pointed to it, which was it's really about income inequality. Everybody needs a place to live. Everybody needs a place to live. And everybody moves and things change. I love what you just said, by the way. I actually go and talk to every new business. And I say, welcome. My name's Joe. I've lived here a long time. Maybe you have not heard about O Positive. Would you like to be involved? And one of our biggest supporters locally, I'm actually holding this mic like a rock and roll guy right now, just so you know. All right. Anyway, you could tell other parts of my life. But, literally I went to the folks at Rough Draft when they opened up. And I said, oh, a bookstore and beer? This looks pretty Brooklyn-y. What's up? How are you? And now, they're great friends. They donate every year. They put beer on tap. We do book signings there. We use them as a venue. They're amazing. So I think going back to relationship, and I know we have to wrap it up, you just have to freaking break down the wall and not be afraid of who moves here or who moves out. That's it. You just say hi. That's all.
I just want to quickly say that our social media person is a 70-year-old woman who was born in Ellenville and runs an antique store downtown. So she has, I don't know why, she loves social media, and so we've given her full reign of that, and she's really done this amazing job at being an ambassador and just connecting different people and continuing to bridge that gap.
I'm just going to answer really quickly as well. That G word, gentrification, has actually been really great for our farm because of what we sell. So what I use our farm store for is a platform to educate every single person walking in that door, number one, about where their food comes from. And food needs land to grow. And if people are buying up the land to put multi-million-dollar houses on it, there won't be any food. So I use that platform that I have, as small as it is, to talk to every single customer. So when customers come, they get an hour appointment, although that's started to change, but because it's just easier for me to just say, just come whenever. But they get time with us, with both of us, when my husband is home. And they learn about their food, and they learn about the land and how our animals impact the land and how we live within it and the importance of preserving it. And so we believe that what we're doing is a really important service alongside being a business. We want people to really understand where they're going to live if they're new. If they're longtime residents, I think they do understand already.
All right. How about that panel?